Hello everyone, my name is Thompson, hypnotherapist and counselor, and today I'm going to be discussing the ways that our subconscious mind messes with our perceptions of things. And to start out, I wanted to share with you, I'm not going to read it word for word, I'm just going to paraphrase a part of one of my favorite books, The Ultimate Hitchhiker's Guide, by Douglas Adams. Anyway, there's a story for all of you Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy fans that was about Arthur Dent and his girlfriend Fenchurch. Anyway, they were talking about a story that he had experienced. So Arthur went to the train station and he bought a coffee and a newspaper and a packet of biscuits or cookies. And he took them and he sat down. Well, shortly thereafter, another man came and sat down across from him. And after a little while, the man reached over and grabs one of the biscuits or the cookies. And Arthur says, he's like, what's going on here? He's angry. He's like, what's going on? But of course, being British, he keeps it to himself. He just kind of sits and stews. Well, so Arthur decides he's going to show that man, and so he looks straight at him and he grabs one of the biscuits too. And the man glares back at him and he grabs another one. And so one by one, they did this. One person would take one and the other one would take one. And meanwhile, they're glaring at each other. They're pissed. They're like, what's going on here? And Arthur's thinking, this guy has a lot of nerve. Like, what's the deal? And he's pissed, right? Anyway, finally all the biscuits are gone and the man gets up and leaves. And Arthur lifts up his newspaper to start reading the paper and trying to kind of get over this. And he looks down and realizes that his biscuits were under the newspaper the whole time. We all go through a lot of different experiences in life. We might be driving down the road, we might be talking to a friend, we might be doing all sorts of things, but perception is what guides us to whatever feeling we end up having from that experience. For example, you're driving down the road and someone cuts you off. This is a situation you can interpret many different ways. What the hell is this guy's problem? What a jerk. Should have known. This kind of thing always happens to me. Oh well, who cares? So it's not necessarily what happens to us, it's how we interpret what happens to us that colors our emotions, our behavior patterns, and our thoughts, ultimately the outcome of our life. Now, there are ordinary, everyday things that we all experience, things that don't necessarily bring up a lot of emotions. In those situations, we tend to be more flexible, we have a little more control over our thoughts and perceptions about it. On the other hand, sometimes even ordinary situations can bring up strong emotions, otherwise known as triggers. These triggers, it could be a song, it could be a color, it could be a time of day, it could be a person, it could be a situation. And whatever it is, it reminds you on a feeling level and on a body level of something that happened in the past. Something that carried a really, really strong emotional fingerprint. We all have those triggers. We all have those automatic thoughts. Unless you've grown up with an absolutely perfect life, living in utopia and had all your needs met all the time and never felt afraid more than you could handle, chances are you have them too. When a person is triggered, these feelings often feel almost like a time tunnel going into the past. An earlier time when we felt a similar way. So how do we get these triggers? Well, often it's when we're young, when we experience something that was beyond what we felt like we could cope with. It could be something that, as little children we're very sensitive. It could have been something that offended us deeply. It could have been something that shook our sense of self, something that scared us, something where we perceived that we were bad or worthless or unsafe. When someone goes through an experience where they're completely overwhelmed, that situation or that memory is stored in a different place in their brain. Now, when that happens, the memory can often be stored implicitly or sometimes not even consciously to us. So when we're triggered, we might feel that experience in our body, we might feel it as emotions, but we don't always remember it exactly as it happened. So really what happens here, a lot of times when people go through therapy and they're trying to identify and release their triggers, unfortunately they're dealing with it on a conscious level. It's like trying to pick the leaves off a tree. If you want to change the tree, you have to start at the roots. So a lot of times people go to therapy for years and years and years and don't really resolve any of their issues. One main reason being that they're talking about it consciously when the actual root of the problem is buried deeply in their subconscious mind, or maybe in their body. That's why a lot of therapies just don't work. Talk therapies just don't work. It's only in accessing the subconscious mind and being able to get to that place, in that place where you experience that trauma or whatever, to be able to get into that subconscious space, you can actually reach the place that needs healing the most. I speak mostly metaphorically in my album so that people can work through their own issues, so that they can create a picture of it for themselves and move beyond whatever it is that they need to move beyond. So check me out on iTunes or Amazon.